EVIN Keynote 2 it's now time for that. And our speaker for this is Mr. Shubhankar Chaudhry, CEO, One Moto India. A highly motivated, energetic, and result-oriented professional with experience in dealing with all three tiers of the government, central, state, and municipalities, and public sector undertakings, Mr. Chaudhry has worked at different levels in various organizations and helped them in identifying ongoing business demand scenarios, source trends to evaluate the risks and opportunities inherent in the industry, as well as to implement solutions that produce enduring results. He founded Amatyas in 2018, a company that is passionate about designing scalable, tech-centric solutions. Over to you, Mr. Chaudhry.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have had a lot of talk about what is happening in the EV industry today, how the technology is changing and how transformation is coming. But, I'd like to speak on some of the other aspects, which most of us have not been looking at. Today morning, if you see the Google Doodle page, you will see they have tried to showcase, the effects of climate change on what's happening with the glaciers. So, back in 1848, Michael Faraday discovered a very interesting element called gutta percha, which was at that time one of the major components used for electric insulation. But just by the late 1800s, the gutta percha tree absolutely vanished from all the countries where it was found in most of Southeast Asia. The reason for this was that 1 ton of gutta percha used to require around 900,000 tons of the tree barks. Where did it lead us? It led us to massive deforestation in Southeast Asia. Today we are sitting in 2022, and the demand for lithium has already gone above 500,000 tons every year. It is expected that this will lead to almost 3 to 4 million tons per annum by 2030. The question today is, do we have that much of lithium reserves globally? Some experts say yes, some experts say no. But at the same time, the question is, what is the cost that the environment will bear to give supply for that much of lithium globally? Most of us are talking about lithium batteries, alternative batteries. But what is the environmental cost of these batteries? Nobody is looking at. So if you see, 1 ton of lithium requires about approximately 650 metric tons of mineral-rich brine, which equates to almost that 1 ton of lithium ion production requires 1,800 tons of water. Now, that's a major impact on the environment. Today, most of the lithium mining is happening either in Australia or in some of the countries in South America. And communities around these mining operations are already facing massive problems when it comes to water supply for agriculture, and which the indigenous communities require locally. Now, the question is that how do we go and make this whole supply chain sustainable? How do we make sure that the OEMs are responsible and buying products from a sustainable OEM component manufacturers? It is very difficult at this point of time because the market is growing very rapidly. We need to see where we are headed and how we will convert on this whole scenario. Now, companies are already talking about alternative technologies like sodium-ion, graphene-based batteries, vanadium batteries, and we are still at an R&D stage, but we are hopeful that some of this will lead to a new revolution in the battery manufacturing, and we will be able to have a sustainable model for the global supply chain. At the same time, we need to see that all this rapidly being consumed lithium batteries, the current life cycle of a vehicle is 7 to 8 years. So what will happen 7 to 8 years from today when all these vehicles will have their end of cycle? Where will these batteries go? Traditionally, as an OEM, for an automotive OEM, battery was just one of those thousands of components which we were looking at. But in the changing EV scenario, the battery cost is almost 40% of the value of your electric vehicles. Now, when you have 40% of your cost as the electric vehicle, then what will you do with these batteries? Lead acid batteries have been in recycling globally. Almost 90% of the lead acid batteries today are recycled. But when you look at the lithium ion batteries, in a country like India, not even 2% of the lithium ion batteries are recycled. In a developed economy like USA, not even 5% of the batteries are getting recycled. So for all of us as stakeholders, as OEMs, in collaboration with the government, it is very important that we address this issue. Who will plan the recycling of all these batteries? Will we be able to take the load? Also at the same time, just not recycling these batteries, manufacturing of lithium has a cost on the environment. Similarly, recycling of batteries also has a cost on the environment. And then the materials are very hazardous. So how will you transport these materials? How will we develop a platform pan-India so that these batteries can be collected, taken to the recycling centers, and then redistributed nationally? Now this is just one component where the environmental factor is being compensated for on the battery manufacturing. We also need to see how these batteries are getting powered today. So if you say, so today the cost of production of 1 kilowatt of a lithium ion battery requires around 50 to 55 kilowatts of electricity. Now, when this 50 to 55 kilowatts of electricity is going to be powered by coal, your actual output of carbon per kilowatt is 55 kgs. So can we afford it in this scenario? No. But what is the way forward? So the way forward is, decarbonization of the grid. So as long as more and more renewable energy is going to be used, for the powering of these batteries, we can reach a sustainable model. So we all have to be careful, as OEMs, we have to make sure that our complete supply chain, we don't have to be sustainable ourselves, as a manufacturer, what we are doing ourselves, but we also need to see how our OEMs are following the ESG goals. Are the OEMs from whom we are taking our components following these ESG norms or not? Provided, this whole supply chain gets an ecosystem, where the customers are aware, where the investors are aware, where the regulators are aware, that we need to have a component ecosystem from ESG compliant companies. This is just a thought which I have had today, but achieving ESG goals does not come easy. It will give you a strong pinch on your profits. When you see it on the balance sheet, you have a question in your mind: should I follow this or should I not follow this? I was just recently reading an article about Tesla. Tesla being one of the biggest market leaders globally, promoting electric vehicles and the technology. They have even opened up some of their patents to the whole world. Even Tesla today does not, comply with the ESG goals. They have not published, according to 14 indices, what are the emissions which they have from their component manufacturers or from their own factories. Reason being, we all know that, it is not possible today in a developing country like India especially for any startup or OEM to follow these goals. But the larger question is, if we are going to produce more carbon while manufacturing these batteries and adopting to EVs, then how are we actually contributing to the environment? So, this is something which I would like to leave all of you with a thought. I would like to thank Anuj and the complete WAF team here today to bring all of us together on the Earth Day. And we are hopeful that WAF EV Innovators Network will expand into a bigger platform and develop a sustainable ecosystem of OEMs, manufacturers, and components manufacturers in the Indian ecosystem. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Bhuvan Aneja, representing Volvo Asia Group. So, as you very rightly said, there are a lot of things like more pollution is there when we produce these vehicles. I totally agree, and there are a lot of compliance sector that will be required. But don't you think it will be good if we have some benefit out of it? Like if there are green projects like solar projects, we get CDM.
I didn't hear the last line.
If there are solar projects,
Yes.
then we get CDM.
Right.
But we are not getting any CDM like benefits for electric vehicles projects, which are very large scale projects deploying 100, 200 buses supposedly, but there is no direct CDM advantage. So there is no incentive to comply and comply with all the compliances and list that you are talking about.
So, when it comes to the CDMs, a lot of talk has been going on about that how do these companies actually come out and, how do you get those credits, for being sustainable, for promoting sustainability. Currently in India, we are not seeing any kind of ecosystem for that, but globally a lot of R&D is going on. We have seen some blockchain tokens coming out on these kind of concepts. For example, let us take, One Moto, where, we are already working on a couple of sustainable initiatives. For example, we are trying to give more discount to our dealers who are using solar rooftop solutions, we are trying to give more discounts to, dealers who are able to take, so we have two components only, right? We have to promote as OEMs sustainable ecosystem for our own dealerships, for our supply chain, for our logistics. And eventually, I feel when it comes to CDMs, Tesla is already working on it with UNEP. And I believe once the framework comes out, then the EV manufacturers and the OEMs can take those benefits of CDMs. Any other questions?
Thank you. And now I would like to invite Mr. Anuj Guglani to felicitate Mr. Chaudhry.